Good evening, Marks. It's Hughezy. Hello. So I'm just finished watching WrestleMania 35. Overall, I was pretty positive about it. But before you get all triggered and you're looking for a massively extensive review, subscribe to the podcast Creative Control with Joe Feeney, because unless plans change later on today, we're going to be recording a full-on review with myself and Mike Durband, and yes, even Bossman Joe Feeney. But yeah, WrestleMania 35 in general, I'm giving it a thumbs up. Did I watch every match? No, because I am busy / completely insane, and I don't want to watch all 5.5 hours of a wrestling show. I don't even think I'm awake for 5.5 hours a day. Hold for laughter. Okay. So let's start with the first match. It was Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar. This is not the result I would have gone for. I would have preferred to have kept the belt on Brock Lesnar simply because of how angry it makes the fans. And I was going to say, I think that Seth Rollins is really boring as a babyface. If he was a heel, I'd be 100% behind this. But he's not, and he won the belt, but it was also a great start to a WrestleMania. Up next, AJ Styles versus Randy Orton. I've got to say this, wrestling fans are dicks. Who pays all that money to come to WrestleMania to not pay attention to what's going on in the ring? That doesn't make the wrestlers look bad, that makes the fans look bad. But going into this match, I was expecting nothing. I'm not really an AJ Styles fan. I don't like Randy Orton. He bores the life out of me. But this was a great match, and this was the best AJ Styles match I've seen in a long time. And it's better when he gets on with the action and enough of that boring technical stuff. Up next, the Usos versus Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev versus The Bar versus Ricochet and Aleister Black. Didn't watch. The Miz versus Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon didn't sweat on his way to the ring, so it started off better than most Shane McMahon matches. No one was expecting a classic, and it wasn't a classic, but this had a great finish, and I'd like to think that this is the start of Miz's long overdue main event title push. Let's get him in there. Up next, the Boss and Hug Connection, or whatever they're called, versus the Iconics, versus Nia Jax and Tamina Snuka, versus Beth Phoenix and Natalya Neidhart. Didn't watch. Up next, Daniel Bryan versus Kofi Kingston. Now, I have to tell you this, I have not marked out to a match like this in years. I honestly thought that because of Rollins winning the title earlier on, that Vince wouldn't change the SmackDown title too. But this was a brilliant match, and by far the match of the night. And I've got to say this, which might cause some offence, but I don't care. Now we don't have to hear people complaining about, no black champions anymore. Because even though we've had The Rock and Booker T and Mark Henry, now I've got another one. So that complaint is done, and let's move on to the next match. Rey Mysterio versus Samoa Joe. Didn't watch. Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre. Didn't watch. Batista versus Triple H. Part-timer versus part-timer is something I never like ever. And let's be honest, that even Batista at his peak was really never one of the all-time greats. I mean, he's had a few good matches here and there, but emphasis on the word few. This match was what it was. It was just good to see Batista back. It's good that he's retired, but the whole idea of them having a retirement stipulation, consider Triple H wrestles only at stadium shows. Come on, it was silly, but yeah, it happened, and it wasn't very good. Kurt Angle versus Baron Corbin. Didn't watch. Bobby Lashley versus Finn Balor. Didn't watch. Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch. Right, now, here's where things get a little awkward, okay? I'm not saying that these women didn't deserve to headline WrestleMania, because they did. I think they're great. But does this mean that we really can't point out how sloppy this match was? Like, I'm a big Charlotte Flair fan, This was not a great performance by her. They botched a lot. Mistimed drop kicks, punches, clotheslines, bulldogs, whatever that move's called. This was not a professional WrestleMania main event looking match. And, of course, Becky Lynch got the win, which is just one of the many examples of proof of the superiority of Irish people, as you can tell by this unbelievably superior review. Now, of course, the way the finish happened, that's got the marks panicking a bit like, what happened? So, let me work this out. WWE did a finish to the main event of a WrestleMania. It's got the whole internet talking about it. And now everyone's going to have to tune in to Raw or SmackDown to find out what happens next. And fans still don't understand why WWE did that. Marks are dumb. Wrestling is fake. You got worked. You are marks. And speaking of marks, overall, if I had to rate this show, I'd give it a 3, maybe even a 4 out of 5. I didn't watch everything, but the stuff that I did watch, I really liked. And I'm now interested to see what happens next with Kofi Kingston. I think have a few rematches with Daniel Bryan, but then I want to see Kofi Kingston versus Andrade Cien Almas. Kofi Kingston versus John Cena versus AJ Styles. Kofi Kingston versus Rey Mysterio. It's Hughezy, bye-bye.